It is promoting gender ideology, non-binary, they-them pronouns to children. It is excluding parents, mainly mothers, who don't want this. Yes. What if I don't want to tell my kids that there's no such thing as race? What if I want to tell them that there's a difference between the races? That certain races are more intelligent than other ones. They have larger brains than the other races. What if I want to teach my kids that? And you're going to come to me and show me a book to say that's all pseudoscientific nonsense and not real? But what if I want this? What if I want to measure skulls? I want to teach my kids how to measure skulls. What if I want that? Am I not allowed to do this as well? I don't know if all of you are familiar with the term gender critical. If you're not British, you probably haven't heard that as much. Really famous in Britain. Basically, it's their version of the TERF movement with some extra flavors. It's kind of like creationism instead of religion. It's like, oh no, don't worry. I'm not a deeply religious person. I'm a creationist. I believe God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days, as it says in the Bible. It's like, well, you just sound like a Christian. No, this is science-based, actually. Yes, we show that there's a lot of problems with the theory of evolution and stuff like that, and the god of gaps, of course, and, you know, is every bone connected to the next species' bones, all this kind of stuff, you know, and then maybe these imprints aren't real archaeology, it's not a really known or trusted science, is it? Either way, I'm a creationist. It's the same thing. You're still the same thing. Anyways, they're losing their minds over this. Yes, right now. Because they go by they-them pronouns. Tala, the non-binary alien, that goes by they-them pronouns. Very cute. Super adorable. Incredibly cute. In what world does this have to be your new enemy, your new cause? I guess this one is a bit better than last week's outrage, because the flute thing was kind of wild in that, like, every single conservative lost their minds at the same time. And then I think not all conservatives are buying this one. I think this one's a little too silly because it's like, look at them. You know, they're pretty cute. Like, I don't know if I would apply gender in one direction or another either way. It wouldn't make sense, I guess, for an alien. So they can be they them. It's not a bad thing, right? It started when my partner Juliet was pregnant. Do you know what you're having? Well-meaning midwives would ask for checkups. If the question was directed at me, I'd usually make a joke out of it. We're hoping for a human, I'd smile. Or ideally not a Tory, though I'm sure we'd still love them. When Juliet went into labor, the gender question quickly became the first that every medic we interacted would ask. And when our baby finally arrived after the terror of plunging heart rate, after that moment immediately postpartum, when they weren't yet breathing and the world fell apart, before I remembered that's normal, that my brother had warned me that this would happen, my first interaction with a new child was to have a groin thrust to my face so I could sex them. I hadn't slept much for 48 hours, and what with the umbilical cord and dark smears of blood and everything, I got it wrong for half a second. A girl, I mumbled. A pink knitted hat was produced from somewhere and stayed on her head for most of the first month. Maybe one day, Leia, as our daughter was named, informed me that I got it wrong. About 1% of the population is gender nonconforming, but in the meantime, we've gone along with the assumption that she's a she. What we've tried to resist is sometimes aggressive policing of gender and pushing into boxes with fixed boundaries. Yes, Leia sometimes wears flowery pink dresses, and sometimes she wears blue trousers, despite almost every baby clothing website forcing boys and girls sections to what you're actually looking for a jumper. So, where's the thing? Aggressive gendering is a product of neoliberal capitalism's obsession with putting people in boxes so it can sell us different versions of the self. Ah, I've heard of this. I've heard of this explained before in the theory. So we are commodifying ourselves, our identities. What are you? Are you gay or straight? Oh, you're gay. Oh, you might like some rainbow stuff. Yeah, a little bit more vibrant colors, if you will. Yeah, because, you know, you got to be fabulous. I've seen the stereotypes. I've seen the movies and the TV shows. You know, you talk in a high pitched voice and you love to party. You're a very good dancer, very sexy body too. Usually what I see. So yeah. Anyways. This brings us to Maya Forstater. Maya Forstater is best known as J.K. Rowling's defense of most things. As in, when J.K. Rowling comes out and says something, it's like, where are you getting this? It was Maya. Okay, yes. Here we go. Misogyny 101. Disdain for mothers. Things I rarely get to say. Things I say rarely get commented on by Owen Jones, Billy Bragg, Robin Moyer White, etc. But the library, rhyme time scheme really seemed to hit a nerve with these people, and the hordes of the TRA, MRA trolls who are playing it for the lulz. What'd they say? Word searches by my subspace transmission that Tala, president of the Center for Galactic Development, or CGD, on Alpha Centauri, has decided not to offer Miss Forstater a consultee contract at the Terran local office in the onboard system. Yeah, that's kind of silly. Astonishing to see Chief of Gender Police Maya Forstater lose it over the pronouns of a cartoon alien bear. Further proof that the anti-trans Taliban will not be satisfied until everyone, real or fictitious, conforms to their beliefs. Owen Jones, friend of the show. I would laugh about the fact that the completely fixated with trans people faction are currently ranting and raving about this cute sea little alien if it wasn't for the fact that the public debate has been taken hostage by their unhinged fanaticism. I love this. A bunch of people have jumped on me saying I'm criticizing a book. Just to be clear, this isn't a book. People can write crappy books with ugly cartoon characters if they want. This is about a public library scheme for parents, mainly mothers and toddlers. My concern, following a message from my mum who said it was ideological, creepy, and gaslighting were, it is promoting gender ideology, non-binary, they-them pronouns to children. It is excluding parents, mainly mothers, who don't want this. Yes. What if I don't want to tell my kids that there's no such thing as race? What if I want to tell them that there's a difference between the races? That certain races are more intelligent than other ones. They have larger brains than the other races. What if I want to teach my kids that? And you're going to come to me and show me a book to say that's all pseudoscientific nonsense and not real? But what if I want this? What if I want to measure skulls? I want to teach my kids how to measure skulls. What if I want that? Am I not allowed to do this as well? Billy Bragg suggested that I'm denying that men can have a role as caregivers. This is obviously silly. The fact that most infants are mainly looked at by their mothers. This is part of the woman's lives. I mean, it doesn't have to be. You can share. You can have an equal partnership, you know. And then what if it was two daddies? Two daddies could do that. There's no mother at all in that situation, but two daddies have been shown statistically to be totally fine being a pair of fathers. They actually work out quite nicely. Yeah, the kids seems to have a good old time as long as the parents are very loving. As long as they are loving, the parents grow up happy and healthy. Parents and toddler groups in libraries, church halls, playgrounds, 1 o'clock clubs, sports centers are not unimportant or laughable. She's been doing this for 5 days. 5 days over the cartoon alien. This grown adult person doing this for 5 days. The lulls at Tala reflect a general disdain for the lived experience of mothers. You have just spent 9 months building a whole new human being inside you. Your body is battered and changed forever. You are off to work. You are isolated. You may not have any local mom friends. That sounds kind of shitty. Maybe if women weren't directly associated and only associated with womb having and being mothers, then this wouldn't be as big of a problem when it could be also maybe dudes who look after the kids or help out and are expected to get pat leave, stuff like that. Could be good, you know, might go in the exact opposite of what you're worried about here. We are the womb havers. Well, I mean, trans men can have wombs as well. So can non-binary people. No, only women may have the womb. You are in charge of a baby. You have never done this before. You haven't even had a good night's sleep for months and won't for years. Everyone has an opinion on what you're doing right and wrong. Even getting out of the house feels momentously difficult. By the way, just so everyone knows with TERF rhetoric and I guess gender critical rhetoric as well, this idea that trans people and allies want to somehow take away from the lived experience of cis women has never been uttered by activists, the trans community, or allies in any way, shape, or form. They've made that one up. As in, like, well, yet another space where men are trying to take over and control a woman's space or something like that. No, like, there are different forms of misogyny. There's trans misogyny, which affects trans people, right? There's misogyny that comes into when people don't conform to certain gendered stereotypes that trans people have to experience. But no one takes away from the lived experience of cis women. Cis women have their own obstacles. The patriarchy is very, very real. Absolutely. They face very, very high rates of abuse, stuff like that. So can trans women, by the way. They can face very high rates of abuse, very high rates of sexual abuse, and stuff like that. No one is trying to erase one or the other, unless you are a TERF. If you're a TERF, then you're trying to erase the lived experience of trans women and what they go through and what they suffer for, instead of helping try to alleviate that. Then 2 years later, you were doing it again. This time, more experience, more exhaustion. 2 sets to juggle? Needs to juggle. Oh, okay. Baby and toddler, buggy, juice, snacks, nappies, nap times, tantrums. And you become invisible. You had politics. You had a career. You had interests. You had a sex life. Now, You have the daily needs of a completely dependent person, and your world has shrunk. That probably wouldn't be as big of a problem if you had other people helping out. Like men. If women were only defined by their ability to give birth and then be mothers and nurturers. What if dudes helped out? What if dudes had a little bit of isolation sometimes, and hard times, and nappy times, and feeding times, and all that kind of stuff? What if you tried to go a little bit more equals on that whole thing? Seems like it would alleviate the very problems that you're worried about here. The ones that you're really making into a big thing. So there is a local group where they sing songs and play with toys, give the toddlers a biscuit and some squash. There are other mums there. You feel less isolated, but you also feel intimidated. Are they doing this right? Are you being judged? This is not the time and place for some ideologically driven council worker to push gender identity on you and make you feel like, okay, sorry. I gotta do this one in a wee bit more. This is not the time and place for some ideologically driven council worker to push gender identity on you and make you feel like a bigot or an outcast if you resist. The fact that these men and young women that cheered him on think this is so laughable reflects society's disdain for the mothers. This is why it is important we talk about women's lives, not menstruators, uterus havers, pregnant people. This is what it says to be a woman, not a feeling or a costume. Not a feeling. Or a question. When it's more than a feeling, can I feel the glove of love and motherhood? It is the whole life experience of being female. That is why it's the hub of resistance is on the most yet. Okay, so yeah, again, no one's trying to take away the lived experience of being a cis woman. That is not something that a cis man can ever have experienced, and affects, definitely, patriarchy is real, and not something that a trans woman can ever have experienced. But there are intersectional overlaps between their lived experiences, things that I would say unite them more than divide them, and why work towards continuing that oppression just because it happens to be a category or group that you don't consider yourself to be a part of. It doesn't take away, hey, I can say this as a dude. I'm supposed to be the one with the fragility. I'm supposed to be the one that's very insecure all the time. Trans men take away nothing from my experience as a cis man. In fact, it makes the whole thing seem way more cool and based. It's just like, yeah, awesome. Yeah, men don't have to be one thing, you know? There can be white men, black men, there can be cis men, trans men, gay men, straight men. It's a many splendid thing. All the men, all the boys, dudes rock, you know? Yeah, and far be it from me to cisplain this whole thing, but let us listen to a non-binary individual, Mix Amanda Jet Knox, or Jete Knox. Number 1, I have 4 kids. Number 2, I happen to be non-binary. Non-binary. Number 3, I attended, organized, and led library groups, co-op preschool council meetings, and play groups. Number 4, the existence of non-binary people and they/them pronouns do not erase or threaten women. Number 5, this is an alien, Maya. This is a fictional alien character. It harms absolutely no one. It only offends those who are already offended by trans people. It's a made-up crisis. I might add, of the highest order, okay? Like, honestly, of the highest order. And again, 5 days. She's like, today, she is still going on about this. Still. That this is part of some radical gender ideology. That it's like, how dare you not understand what it is like to be a mother and to walk into these rooms and all of a sudden they're trying to teach you new things. I, for one, do not want to learn a new thing. I will never learn new things. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Juste, we shall spend many a generations building mighty cathedrals in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your oafish jesters, here to offer you a laugh at any opportunity. To our brave knights of the Round Table, Rachel K., Izzy Solidarity, Victoria Bell, Sebastian Demo, Mark Harmon, Benji Arney, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Everything Important, Hegbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Doug Cady, Daniel Sutton, Jenna Tal, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevbot EXE, Brian Ephraim, Anthropophojak, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Ralph Parler, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Todd Buckingham, and Todd La Jeunesse. We salute our valiant heroes off to fight injustice everywhere.